After 4 years of lifting, I finally managed to hit a 500-pound deadlift. While I am happy with my progress, I definitely could have done this in a much faster time frame, knowing what I know now. This video will hopefully give you some good advice on how to progress your deadlift and potentially get you to 500 pounds faster than I did. I'm going to break this video down into multiple sections, going over what you should be doing both inside and outside the gym to reach your first ever 500-pound pull. The most important part of your diet is ultimately going to be your calories and macros. Make sure you're getting in at least 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight. You're also going to want to make sure that you get a good amount of carbs either before or during your gym session so you can have a good amount of energy in the gym and perform well. Of the big three lifts, the deadlift is going to be the least affected by changes in body weight. With that said, I would still recommend eating in a slight calorie surplus to ensure that you're maximizing muscle growth and recovery. I would say that a good general recommendation would be to gain anywhere from between 1 and 3 pounds per month to ensure that you're optimally building muscle while limiting the amount of fat that you gain. Sleep plays a very important role in your recovery and performance in the gym. I recommend getting a minimum of 6 hours of sleep per night. Make sure that you have a consistent sleep-wake schedule every single day. If you take pre-workout, I'd also recommend not taking it super late in the day, or if you do take it at a lower dose, because that can potentially mess up with your sleep as well.
There you go. Go Matt. Go Matt. There you go Matt.
If you're a beginner or early intermediate lifter with very little experience in the deadlift, I'd recommend just simply starting with the empty bar, work your way up to a weight that you can comfortably do for about 5 reps, and just do literally any set and rep scheme. Add like 5 pounds to the bar every single week as you get used to the form. Now chances are, if you clicked on this video, you're probably more in the mid to late intermediate stages of lifting, and your max is somewhere around 365 to 455. As a later stage intermediate, you can't really expect to constantly add progress every single workout and just get stronger than last time. For example, let's say you can deadlift 405 for 5 reps and it's just the most grindiest, just all-out set you've ever done. Chances are you're not just going to be able to walk into the gym the next week and improve upon that. And in some cases, you might be so fatigued, you might not even be able to repeat that performance. Constantly trying to just go for a new max every single week as an intermediate is a surefire way to just plateau indefinitely and potentially even risk injury in some cases. This is the trap that I would personally fall into because I would, just constantly go for new rep PRs every single week, and I would just overreach and just plateau for months on end without making any kind of progress. Expecting to make the same level of progress as an intermediate that you did as a novice is just really unrealistic, because if you could do that indefinitely, then you'd have people deadlifting multiple thousands of pounds after just a couple years, which obviously doesn't happen. So what should you do instead? Well, instead of just trying to go for a new rep PR every single week, what you could do is just give yourself a weight reset after you hit your ceiling and spend the next following weeks working your way up to a new PR. This is a very basic explanation of linear periodization. Think of it like you're giving yourself a runway to actually hit the PRs that you want to hit. This will actually give you a much better shot at recovery between your actual max attempt, and you'll actually get a better chance of making the adaptations that you want. So what does this actually look like? Well, let's say you go for a top set of 405 for 5 reps, like the example we just used earlier. Instead of just randomly trying to hit 410 for 5 or 405 for 6, you could then do a weight reset and back off to something that would be around, say, an RPE 6 or 4 reps in reserve. So this would probably be somewhere around 355 for a set of 5, and then next week you could move up to an RPE 7, so maybe like some 370 for a set of 5, and then next week RPE 8, so maybe like 385, and next week RPE 9, so that'd probably be around 400, and then depending on how that RPE 9 week set moved, you could then actually go for your PR attempt of 410 or 415 for 5 reps, or you can go for 405 for 6 on this day as well. And then from there, you can either do a deload week and go for a new max, or just reset back down to an RP 6, except this time you're obviously going to start a bit heavier, maybe around 365 or so, and then just literally repeat the same process with your new PRs. Now, unless you're Mike Menser, you probably don't want to just do one set. You should probably do some extra volume on top of that, just so that you can get some extra skill practice and hypertrophy work. So what I like to do is a top set using the progression scheme I just mentioned earlier, and then I'll follow it up with anywhere from between 3 and 5 back off sets per week. I recommend staying anywhere from between 4 and 7 reps. Here are some example percentages that you can use. I like to just progress these via a basic double progression. So for example, let's say my back off sets, I'm doing 3 sets of 6 at 350 pounds. So next week, I can move up to 355, but only doing 3 sets of 5. And then the next week, I could go 655. Then next week, I can go 665. Next week, 666. And then the week after that, I can go up 5 pounds again. Repeat that same process with 360, 365, etc. Now with these, you also want to make sure that the last set doesn't exceed more than RP 7 to 8. Because again, we're not trying to hit failure. We're trying to, just get some extra sort of sub-maximal hypertrophy work. Now, I've essentially just given you a free sample program that you can use, and you can adjust the percentages based on your actual max as needed. You don't have to follow this exact program that I've given you. There are plenty of periodization style programs that work just as well as mine, given that it has a reasonable progression scheme. The most important thing is that as an intermediate lifter, you have to be more realistic about how fast you can progress in weight, and as well as how you manage fatigue accumulation. Don't have unrealistic expectations about how fast you can increase your max. Even just adding 5 pounds every month, you might not look at that as good progress, but over the course of a year, that's literally adding like 60 pounds. So that's very good progress, I would argue, for an intermediate level lifter. So yeah, just be realistic with your progress and you'll get where you want to get sooner than you think. The deadlift involves a lot of muscle groups, primarily in the back and the legs. Here are some must-have movements that you should include to isolate these muscles individually and help you add some serious poundage to your deadlift. Although your lats and traps aren't direct prime movers in the deadlift, they play a huge role in stabilizing the bar. For back hypertrophy, at a minimum, I would include a horizontal pulling movement. So this could be something like pull-ups, chin-ups, lat pull-downs. You could also substitute this for some kind of pullover. I'd also recommend a vertical pulling movement, so this would be pretty much any row variation. If you want to maximize your deadlift, you also shouldn't be a leg day skipper, as the legs are going to be pretty much the prime movers of the deadlift. So you also want to include some kind of hamstring curl variation. I personally like Nordic curls, but just a regular machine hamstring curl should work fine. I'd also recommend doing some kind of squat pattern. So this could be the typical barbell squat, and you can do like a machine squat, leg press, etc. And I'd also optionally include a leg extension for just some extra quad isolation. Optionally, you could also include some kind of lighter secondary hinge movement. So this could be something like a good morning or a weighted back extension. And this can help you further isolate your posterior chain, which can potentially help you carry over to the deadlift. Muscle and strength are very much correlated, so don't half-ass your accessories, train them close to failure, and implement your progressive overload just like you would with your main compound lift. I hope this video was at least somewhat informative. Remember, eat enough, program smart, and train your accessories hard. Do that, and it's just a matter of time before you hit your first ever 500-pound pull.